My fiancée took a break to find herself, slept with other men, and came back begging, but I said no. And what followed left her speechless. She told me she needed a break to find herself. So I helped her pack and changed the locks. 8 weeks later, she was back, tear-streaked, mascara running, whispering that no one had ever loved her like I did. What she didn't know? I already knew about her ex, her coworker, and her gym trainer. So I looked her in the eye and said, "That's the problem, Amber. I did love you." Past tense. Then I closed the door and started my life on the other side of it. We met at my best friend's wedding 5 years ago. Amber was the maid of honor, I was the best man. The oldest cliché in the book, but it worked for us. I remember how she laughed that night, head thrown back, completely uninhibited. She danced like nobody was watching, even when everyone was. By the time we exchanged numbers, I was already imagining our future together. Our relationship moved quickly. 3 months of dating, 6 months living together. By our 1-year anniversary, I'd started saving for a ring. Amber was beautiful, ambitious, and passionate about everything she touched. She was a marketing executive at a startup, always chasing the next promotion, the next achievement. I admired her drive. I thought we balanced each other well. She pushed me to take risks in my engineering career, and I grounded her when work stress became overwhelming. We had our routines: Sunday brunches, Friday movie nights, summer hikes in the mountains, normal couple stuff. The first red flag appeared on our 3rd anniversary. I'd planned a weekend trip to the coast, but Amber canceled last minute because of a work emergency. It happened more often after that. Plans rescheduled, dinners missed, weekends sacrificed for her career. I told myself it was temporary. "You're too understanding," my sister warned me once. "She's taking advantage of your patience." I brushed it off. Every relationship requires sacrifice, right? Then came the texts from her ex, Mark. Nothing explicitly inappropriate, just constant. Checking in, reminiscing, asking for advice. When I mentioned it bothered me, Amber accused me of being insecure. "He's just a friend," she insisted. "You need to trust me." So I did. Or at least I pretended to. Maybe I was too accommodating. Maybe I ignored the signs because I was so invested in our future. 5 years is a long time to spend with someone. You build a life together, plan for tomorrow, next year, forever. Last month, I found the ring I'd been hiding. The jewelry box was in the same spot, but it had been opened. Amber never mentioned seeing it. Instead, she became distant, started working later, going out with the girls more often. I convinced myself it was pre-engagement jitters, that she'd found the ring and was processing what came next. I couldn't have been more wrong. 2 weeks later, she sat me down at our kitchen table, hands folded like she was conducting a business meeting. "I need some space," she said calmly. "Time to figure out who I am outside of us." I should have seen it coming. The canceled plans, the emotional distance, the constant texts from her ex. All the signs were there, I just didn't want to read them. A break. That's what Amber called it as we sat across from each other at our kitchen table. Not a breakup. A break. Like our 5-year relationship was a TV show she could pause and resume whenever it suited her. "I just need to find myself again," she said, her voice steady as she stirred her untouched tea. "Figure out who I am outside of us." I stared at her, searching for any hint of emotion, regret, sadness, anything. But her face was a perfect mask of calm determination. "And how long do you need?" I asked, keeping my voice level despite the knot forming in my stomach. She shrugged. "I don't know. A few weeks? A month? And where will you be finding yourself during this break?" Her eyes flickered away for a split second. "I'll stay with Jess. She has a spare room." I nodded slowly, letting the truth settle between us. This wasn't about self-discovery. This was about something, or someone else. "Is there someone else, Amber?" "What?" "No." She looked offended, but the denial came too quickly. "This is about me, not another person." I've always been good at staying calm in difficult situations. It served me well in my career and life. But sitting there, watching her lie to my face after 5 years together, something inside me shifted. "Here's what's going to happen," I said, my voice unnervingly calm even to my own ears. "You want a break to find yourself? Fine, but you're not doing it with one foot in the door. You either stay and we work through whatever's going on, or you leave. Completely. Her eyes widened. What do you mean? I mean, if you walk out that door tonight, don't expect to walk back in whenever you feel like it. This isn't a hotel you can check in and out of. You're being dramatic. She scoffed. It's just temporary space. No, Amber, I'm being realistic. You want freedom? I'm giving it to you. All of it. She stared at me, finally showing some emotion. Surprise mixed with irritation. She wasn't used to me setting boundaries. So what, you're kicking me out? I'm respecting your decision, I corrected her, but I'm also respecting myself enough not to be your safety net. Her face flushed. This isn't how this was supposed to go. How was it supposed to go? I wait around while you find yourself? Keep the bed warm until you decide if I'm worth coming back to? That's not fair, she snapped. Fair? I almost laughed. Was it fair when you started texting Mark again? When you canceled our anniversary trip? When you stopped trying in this relationship months ago? The color drained from her face. You don't understand. I understand perfectly, I cut her off. You want space? Pack your things tonight. I'll help you load the car. She stood up, chair scraping against the floor. You're being an asshole. No, I'm finally standing up for myself. You made your choice, Amber. Now you can live with it. She stormed into our bedroom, and I heard drawers being yanked open, closet doors slammed. I sat there, strangely calm, listening to the sound of our relationship crumbling around me. 2 hours later, her car was packed. She stood by the front door, keys in hand, tears finally appearing in her eyes. This isn't what I wanted, she whispered. Isn't it? I asked, because it seems exactly like what you asked for. I just needed time to think. Not this. Time to think about what, Amber? About us? Or about who else might be out there for you? Her silence was all the answer I needed. That's what I thought, I said quietly, reaching past her to open the door. Good luck finding yourself. As she walked to her car, she turned back one last time. You'll regret this. When I come back, you'll wish you hadn't pushed me away. I looked her in the eye. If there's one thing I've learned tonight, it's that I've been letting you push me away for months. I'm just finally accepting it. I closed the door before she could respond, leaned my back against it, and let out the breath I'd been holding for what felt like years. The house was quieter than it had ever been. But for the first time in months, the silence didn't feel empty. It felt like possibility. The first night after Amber left, I slept better than I had in months. No pretending to be asleep while she slipped into bed at midnight. No staring at the ceiling, wondering why she was growing more distant. Just silence and space. Ironically, the very things she claimed to need. By morning, the texts started. The first one just said, I'm at Jess's. We should talk soon. I didn't reply. 3 days passed in a strange blur. I went to work, came home, ordered takeout, and settled into a routine that felt oddly comfortable. No compromises, no walking on eggshells. My phone kept lighting up with messages from concerned friends. Heard about you and Amber. You okay? What happened? Want to grab a beer and talk? I answered none of them. I wasn't ready to turn our relationship into a public autopsy. A week into Amber's break, my friend Marcus called. Man, I didn't want to be the one to tell you this. My stomach tightened. Just say it. I saw Amber last night at the Reserve. He paused. She wasn't with Jess. The Reserve was an upscale bar downtown. Not the kind of place you go for self-discovery. Who was she with? I already knew the answer. Mark. Her ex. I thanked Marcus and hung up. The betrayal stung. But the confirmation was almost a relief. I'd been right all along. 2 days later, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. You don't know me, but I work with Amber. Think you should see this. Attached was a photo from what looked like a company happy hour. In the background, Amber sat at the bar, Mark's arm around her waist, her head tilted back in laughter. The timestamp showed it was taken 3 weeks before our break conversation. I stared at it for a long time, the pieces finally clicking into place. This wasn't about Amber needing space. This was about Amber wanting to explore things with Mark while keeping me as a backup plan. That night, I did something I'd resisted doing before. I went through our shared cloud photos. In the folder labeled Work Events, I found dozens of pictures from the past few months. Mark was in most of them, always standing close to Amber, always looking at her with unmistakable intent. I scrolled further back and found a video Amber had accidentally uploaded from her phone. She was laughing, the camera shaky, as she filmed herself walking into a hotel room. "Can't believe we're doing this," she giggled to someone off camera. The video cut off before showing who she was with, but the date stamp hit me like a punch to the gut. Our anniversary weekend, the one she'd canceled for a work emergency. The final piece came from an unexpected source. Jess, Amber's supposed roommate during this break, called me the next morning. "I just wanted you to know I haven't seen Amber in weeks," she said, her voice tense. "She's been telling people she's staying with me, but that's not true." "Do you know where she actually is?" I asked, though I already knew. Jess hesitated. "With Mark. They've been seeing each other for months. I told her to come clean with you, but she wanted to keep her options open," I finished for her. "I'm sorry," Jess said quietly. "You deserved better." After hanging up, I sat in the living room, surrounded by the life Amber and I had built together. 5 years reduced to a convenient lie. A backup plan in case her new adventure didn't work out. That night, I finally replied to her latest message asking if we could talk things through soon. My response was simple. "I know about Mark. I know about the hotel. I know you've been lying for months. Don't contact me again." Then I blocked her number and started planning my next move. There's a strange clarity that comes with betrayal. Once the shock fades, everything snaps into focus. I wasn't angry anymore. I was methodical. First, I documented everything. The text from Amber's coworker with the damning photo, the video from our anniversary weekend, screenshots of her lies about staying with Jess. I organized it all in a folder labeled Truth and backed it up to an external drive, not for revenge, but for my own sanity. Next, I changed the locks. Not just the physical ones on the apartment we'd shared, but the digital ones too. New passwords on all accounts, new security questions, new credit cards. I unlinked her from our shared Netflix, Spotify, Amazon, severing each digital thread that connected us. "You're handling this well," my brother commented when he helped me move her remaining things into storage. "Too well, maybe." I shrugged. "What's the alternative? Fall apart? Let her see she still has power over me?" The truth was, I wasn't interested in giving Amber the satisfaction of my pain. She'd betrayed me twice, first with the affair, then with the lie of needing a break to find herself. She didn't deserve a third opportunity to hurt me. Our shared friends started calling, curious about my side of the story. Apparently, Amber had been spinning a narrative where I'd become controlling and suspicious, forcing her to take space. I didn't defend myself. I didn't have to. "Time reveals truth," my grandfather used to say. I'd let time do the heavy lifting. Week 3 of the break, I hired a lawyer to draft a formal letter requesting Amber remove her remaining possessions from the apartment by month's end. We'd never married, but after 5 years, our lives had become legally entangled in ways that needed clean severance. That same day, I booked a 2-week trip to the coast. The same getaway she'd canceled on our anniversary. Solo this time. I also started therapy. Not because I was devastated, but because I wanted to understand why I'd ignored the red flags for so long. Why I'd allowed someone to treat me like a contingency plan rather than a priority. "What would you say to Amber if she came back?" my therapist asked during our second session. "Nothing," I replied. "There's nothing left to say." By week 4, Amber's attempted contacts had escalated. Emails, messages through friends, even a handwritten letter left on my car. Each one more desperate than the last. "I made a terrible mistake. We need to talk in person. You're misunderstanding everything." Mark was a moment of weakness. It didn't mean anything. I read each message once, then filed it away in the truth folder without responding. Every excuse, every plea just confirmed what I already knew. She wasn't sorry for what she'd done. She was sorry she'd been caught. Meanwhile, I continued rebuilding my life. I joined a rock climbing gym, reconnected with friends I'd lost touch with during our relationship, started learning Italian for that solo trip to the Amalfi Coast I'd always wanted to take. The most satisfying moment came when I sold the engagement ring I'd been saving for her. The jeweler gave me a fair price, and I used the money to buy something I'd always wanted but had put off for our future. A vintage motorcycle that needed restoration. A project that was just for me. On the morning Amber was scheduled to collect her things from storage, I made sure I was nowhere near the city. Instead, I was on that motorcycle, riding along the coast, the wind in my face and 5 years of compromise behind me. My phone buzzed with a text from the storage manager. Miss Mitchell collected her items, left an envelope for you. I didn't open it. Whatever closure Amber needed wasn't my responsibility anymore. That night, back at my apartment, now truly mine alone, I opened a bottle of scotch I'd been saving for a special occasion. As I stood on the balcony watching the sunset, I realized this was a special occasion. It was the first day of the rest of my life. And I was ready for it. 2 months after Amber walked out, my phone rang at 7 a.m. It was her mother, Charlotte. James, I know things ended badly with Amber, but Robert and I are still hosting the annual charity gala next weekend. Your ticket was purchased months ago, and we'd still love for you to come. The Mitchell Family Charity Gala. Amber and I had attended together for 4 years straight. It raised funds for children's cancer research, a cause I genuinely supported. I appreciate the invitation, Charlotte, but I'm not sure that's a good idea. Nonsense, she insisted. You've always been family to us. Amber's situation doesn't change that. Her hesitation told me everything. Charlotte knew about Mark, probably about the affair too. Will Amber be there? I asked, already knowing the answer. Well, yes, with a guest. Charlotte sounded uncomfortable. But it's a large event. You needn't interact if you don't wish to. I paused, an idea taking shape. I'll be there, Charlotte. Thank you. That night, I called Vanessa, an old friend from college who'd recently moved back to the city. We'd reconnected during my rebuilding phase, grabbing coffee twice, and discovering we still had the easy chemistry we'd shared years ago. Want to attend a black tie charity gala with me next Saturday? Are you asking me on a date, James Harper? She teased. I'm asking you to help me close a chapter, I replied honestly. My ex will be there with the guy she cheated with, and I'd rather not go alone. Vanessa didn't hesitate. I'll dust off my favorite dress. The night of the gala arrived, and Vanessa looked stunning in a midnight blue gown that made her auburn hair glow like fire. We arrived fashionably late, making an entrance just as Charlotte was finishing her welcome speech. I felt eyes turn our way as we walked in. Vanessa didn't cling to me or play the jealous date. She simply moved with the easy confidence that had always been her hallmark, her hand resting lightly on my arm. Charlotte spotted us and hurried over, embracing me warmly. James, you came. She turned to Vanessa with genuine delight. And you brought someone. How wonderful. As Charlotte made introductions to nearby guests, I scanned the room and found Amber instantly. She stood near the bar, wearing the red dress I'd helped her pick out months ago. Mark was beside her, looking uncomfortable in his rented tuxedo. The moment Amber saw me with Vanessa, her smile faltered. She whispered something to Mark and began making her way toward us. Do you want to avoid her? Vanessa asked quietly. I shook my head. No need. This isn't about running or hiding. Amber reached us, her smile tight. James, I didn't expect to see you here. Your mother insisted, I replied calmly. Amber, this is Vanessa. Vanessa, this is Amber. Vanessa offered her hand with a warm smile. Nice to meet you. James has told me all about your family's incredible work with children's cancer research. Not all about you. All about the charity. The distinction wasn't lost on Amber, whose eyes narrowed slightly. How thoughtful, Amber managed. She turned to me. Could we talk privately for a moment? Actually, we were just heading to our table, I said. Perhaps later. As we walked away, Vanessa squeezed my arm gently. You okay? Better than I expected, I admitted. Throughout dinner, I could feel Amber watching us from across the room. Vanessa and I genuinely enjoyed each other's company, our laughter authentic, our conversation easy. We weren't putting on a show, which made it all the more effective. When the dancing started, Robert Mitchell approached our table. James, my boy, good to see you. He lowered his voice. Charlotte told me what happened. That girl's making the biggest mistake of her life. I smiled. I appreciate that, Robert, but it's all worked out for the best. Well, would you and your lovely date do an old man a favor? We're short one couple for the charity spotlight dance. The spotlight dance was a gala tradition, key donors and special guests sharing a choreographed waltz while pledge cards circulated. Amber and I had participated every year. We'd be honored, I said, glancing at Vanessa, who nodded. As we took our positions on the dance floor, I saw Amber and Mark standing on the sidelines. Her face was flushed, her posture rigid as she whispered furiously to her father. The music began, and Vanessa and I moved together with surprising synchronicity. I'd forgotten how good a dancer she was. Your ex looks like she's about to combust, Vanessa murmured. Let her, I replied. This isn't about her anymore. As the dance ended to applause, Charlotte took the microphone. Before we continue, I'd like to announce a special donation. James Harper has contributed $50,000 to our research fund in memory of his grandfather, who lost his battle with cancer last year. The room erupted in applause. It was the money from the engagement ring, plus what I'd been saving for our honeymoon. I couldn't think of a better use for it. Later, as Vanessa and I prepared to leave, Amber intercepted us near the coat check, alone this time. Was all this necessary? She hissed. Bringing a date? The donation? The dance? I looked at her calmly. None of this was about you, Amber. That's something you never understood. Not everything is. You're just trying to make me jealous, she insisted. Vanessa stepped away discreetly, giving us privacy. No, I said quietly. I'm living my life, the one you walked away from, the one you thought would pause until you decided to come back. I made a mistake, she whispered, tears welling. Mark and I, it's already falling apart. He's not you, James. No, he's not, I agreed. And neither am I anymore. The man who would have waited for you, who would have forgiven you just to keep you in his life, he's gone. I took my coat from the attendant. Goodbye, Amber. I wish you well, but I don't wish for you anymore. As Vanessa and I walked out into the cool night air, she took my hand. You didn't need me here tonight at all, did you? I smiled. No, but I'm very glad you came. 6 months after the charity gala, life had found a new rhythm. I'd been promoted at work, taking on a project I'd once hesitated to pursue because Amber thought it would demand too much of my time. The irony wasn't lost on me. My apartment looked different too. Gone were the neutral tones Amber had insisted upon. I'd painted the living room deep blue, hung artwork I actually enjoyed, and bought that leather couch she'd always vetoed as too masculine. It felt like home now, my home. Vanessa and I continued seeing each other, taking things slowly. We weren't defining whatever was growing between us. After 5 years of compromise and careful planning with Amber, there was freedom in just letting things unfold naturally. I still heard about Amber occasionally through mutual friends. She and Mark had broken up just weeks after the gala, surprising no one. She'd tried dating a colleague from her firm next, but that hadn't lasted either. She asks about you, my friend Marcus told me over beers one night. Wants to know if you're serious about Vanessa. I just shrugged. Her curiosity isn't my concern anymore. The strangest part of moving on wasn't the absence of Amber. It was realizing how much of myself I'd suppressed to accommodate her. I'd started playing guitar again, something she'd found distracting. I'd reconnected with friends she'd deemed immature. I'd rediscovered parts of myself I'd nearly forgotten. One Sunday morning, as Vanessa and I walked through the farmer's market, I spotted Amber across the square. She was alone, looking at her phone, unaware of our presence. For a moment, I felt nothing. No anger, no resentment, not even satisfaction. Just peaceful indifference. Do you want to go another way? Vanessa asked, noticing my pause. I squeezed her hand. No need, she's just someone I used to know. We continued our walk, and when Amber eventually looked up and saw us, I simply nodded in acknowledgement before continuing on. No dramatic confrontation. No lingering gaze. Just a brief recognition of a person who no longer held any power over me. That night, Amber texted me for the first time in months. You looked happy today. I read it once, then deleted it without responding. Whether I was happy or not wasn't hers to comment on anymore. The real transformation wasn't just about moving on from Amber. It was about recognizing the patterns I'd fallen into, putting someone else's needs above my own, ignoring red flags, sacrificing my authenticity for the sake of peace. In therapy, I'd come to understand that my worth wasn't tied to someone else's validation. The break Amber had needed wasn't about finding herself. It was about me finding myself again. A year to the day after Amber had asked for space, I stood on the balcony of my apartment, watching the sunset with a glass of that same scotch. I thought about how different my life looked now, how much lighter I felt without carrying the weight of someone else's indecision. My phone buzzed with a text from Vanessa. "Still on for dinner?" I smiled as I typed back, "Wouldn't miss it." Some people come into your life as lessons, others as blessings. Amber had been the former, teaching me what I wouldn't tolerate again. And in the wreckage of what we'd built together, I'd found something far more valuable than a relationship. I'd found myself. 18 months after Amber walked out of my life, I received a heavy cream envelope in the mail. Inside was an invitation to Robert and Charlotte Mitchell's 30th anniversary celebration. I hadn't spoken to Amber's parents since the charity gala, though they'd sent a kind Christmas card and occasionally liked my social media posts. Their anniversary party would be held at their lake house, the same place where Amber and I had once discussed having our wedding. I called Charlotte to politely decline. "James, dear, we'd be heartbroken if you didn't come," she insisted. "And there's something important we'd like to discuss with you." Curiosity got the better of me. I agreed to attend, asking if I could bring Vanessa. "Of course. We'd love to see her again," Charlotte said a little too enthusiastically. The night of the party, Vanessa and I arrived to find the Mitchell Lake House transformed with lights and flowers. Charlotte embraced us both warmly, while Robert shook my hand with peculiar intensity. "So glad you made it, son," he said. "Very glad indeed." We mingled with guests, careful to avoid the corner where Amber stood, with a date I didn't recognize. She'd cut her hair short, adopted a style more corporate than the bohemian look she'd preferred during our relationship. She noticed us, but made no attempt to approach. After dinner, Robert clinked his glass for attention. "Charlotte and I want to thank everyone for celebrating with us tonight. 30 years is a milestone worth marking." The crowd applauded as he continued. "We've been blessed in many ways, but perhaps our greatest achievement has been our charitable foundation. Tonight, we're announcing a significant expansion of our cancer research initiative." He gestured toward where I stood. "And we're thrilled to announce that James Harper will be joining our board of directors to oversee the new pediatric research division." The room erupted in applause. I stood frozen in surprise. This was the important matter. Charlotte had mentioned not some awkward reconciliation attempt, but a professional opportunity I'd never anticipated. Later, Robert pulled me aside. "The donation you made at the gala last year, it meant something to us. The way you handled everything with Amber, well, it showed character." "I'm honored," I said sincerely, "but won't it be complicated? With Amber?" Robert shook his head. "Amber isn't involved with the foundation. Never showed much interest, frankly." His expression softened. "You've always been the son we wished we had, James. That didn't change when you and Amber parted ways." As we rejoined the party, I caught Amber staring at us, her expression unreadable. When our eyes met, she quickly looked away. On the drive home, Vanessa squeezed my hand. "How does it feel, becoming part of her family after everything?" I considered this. "It feels like closure, but not in the way I expected. Like I'm keeping the parts of that relationship that were actually valuable and leaving the rest behind." 3 days later, an email from Amber appeared in my inbox. The subject line read simply, "Congratulations." The message inside was brief. "I heard about the board position. It should have been awkward, but somehow it feels right. You were always more a Mitchell than I was. Take care of them for me." It wasn't an apology. It wasn't a plea to reconnect. It was something I never expected from Amber, acknowledgement without strings attached. I replied with just 2 words, "Thank you." That weekend, as Vanessa and I packed for a vacation to Italy, the trip I'd always wanted to take but had postponed for years, I found myself reflecting on the strange turns life can take. Sometimes the things that feel like devastating losses lead you exactly where you need to be. Sometimes the family you thought you were building with one person ends up including everyone except them, and sometimes the break someone takes to find themselves actually helps you find yourself instead. As we boarded our flight, Vanessa rested her head on my shoulder. "Happy?" she asked simply. I kissed her forehead and answered truthfully, "Happier than I ever knew was possible." If you stayed to the end, you're part of this story too. Please subscribe for more stories that hit where it hurts and heals.